I'm Dave.
And I'm Rob.
We've got the same dad.
But we didn't meet until I was 16.
And I was a lot older.
So about a year ago, we decided to start this podcast.
Where every month we share an album.
Now, we've shared 12 albums. A whole year.
A whole year has passed, which means we have to ask the question, were any of those albums ones that...
really, truly, madly, deeply...
your...
brother...
should... know! Fantastic. So, welcome everybody to the Season 1 retrospective of Your Brother Should Know. For those of you that don't know, Your Brother Should Know is the podcast where...
me and Dave, who did not share a childhood, share an album with each other once a month.
Because we didn't get to share music growing up.
So this is a little end-of-year wrap where we're going to look back on the 12 albums we've shared with one another and the various ways we've got to know each other better. Let's keep it short and sharp. Dave, what have you shared with me this past year then?
Well, this, you did get the short straw, and you said as much on our very first trailer. I shared with you The Cure, Disintegration, Supertramp, Crime of the Century, Stranglers 4, Raticus Norveticus, Tori Amos, Boys for Pele, New Model Army, Impurity, and Elton John's Madman Across the Water. Yes, I've realised everything I shared with you was from the 70s and the 80s.
Well, I haven't run these maths, but off the top of my head, it looks like I've shared material stretching from 1989 to about 4 years ago.
Nice.
So I guess we're both playing to type. So from the top, I kicked it off by I kicked it off by enlightening your life with Doolittle by the Pixies. Then we moved on to Random Access Memories by Daft Punk and Is This It by The Strokes. Then Fetch the Bolt Cutters by Fiona Apple. Then we took a bit of a left turn into the Rolling Stones' late masterpiece, A Bigger Bang. And finally, it was the 59 Sound by the Gaslight Anthem. So I guess, Dave, what I want to know, first of all, is how many of those albums do you really think you needed to know? How many of these were the classics that were missing from your life? How many of these albums you probably should have known, you realise they're important, but you might not go back to them anytime soon? And how many of these albums you just wish you'd never known at all?
So, Rob, of the 6 albums that I was pleased to hear from you, there is one album that I wish I'd never heard, I never want to hear again, and I'm sorry if it was to be buried in a deep hole underground.
I know exactly which one you're talking about.
And everyone danced little circles around it. I would be very, very happy. There were 2 albums that I'm like, you've widened my musical knowledge. It's been an education, but if I never heard them again, I kind of wouldn't really worry. And then there were 3 albums. You scored 3 hits where I'm like, thank you, Rob. They're in the collection. I like those. They're there forever. One of which in particular, I've got a golden number 1 that, has become a regular play on the Garrett household. I was going to say turntable, but of course, Spotify list. So, same question. Of the 6, did I get any in the I'm glad I'm going to play it forever, or were they all in the I wish they were in a hole? Go.
I mean, I don't want to pay the critical brother, the Snyder conservative and all I know best one, but there were a couple of albums you shared that I could gladly live never hearing ever again. There are a couple of albums you shared that I can see why you shared them, and I got a lot from, and I'm really glad that you've widened my knowledge, maybe broken down a few preconceptions I had. And there are a couple that I can say I'm genuinely glad to know and will be listening to in the future.
Okay.
Will be trying to source for my own turntable sometime soon.
Fantastic. Well, I'm pleased.
So, Dave.
Because I have to say, coming into this, I honestly thought you'd done better than I had. I think you probably have. Because I'm aware my list...
Well, I have. It's a 2-2-2 versus a 3-2-1. Come on.
It is. But anyway, let's kick off with the holes in the ground.
Okay, so Dave, which one album was it that I shared with you that you could never hear again? I think I know which album it is, and I think literally just yesterday a co-worker of mine sent me a screen grab of the 10 out of 10 Pitchfork review. The timing is impeccable.
Yeah, well, you know which one it is. Fiona Apple, and I did try... Fiona Apple, Fetch the Bolt Cutters. I get it, we were about to do Tori Amos. I still to this day don't quite understand how it is that I'm just not in her Venn diagram, because I get it that she's kind of, she's trying to be inventive, trying to be thoughtful, trying to be a little bit left field, etc., etc. It should be experimental stuff I like. I just could not engage with it in any way. It was for me, all the cliches of blackboard fingernails, etc., etc. Even thinking about it now, my brain is just crawling up into a little small guinea pig going, help me, don't ever let me see that again.
As much as I want to call you a Philistine, what I will observe is, if I'd known at the beginning of the season which 6 albums I was going to share, and actually I didn't, it's been a bit of a, a journey for myself as well. But had I looked at this list of 6 albums a year ago, this is probably the album I would have been certain that you'd love. The other 5 I would have had some trepidation about. But I thought Fetch the Bolt Cutters was such a masterpiece, and so I thought you're the emotionally articulate older brother that I never had, who would really respond to this kind of quite profound, moving singer-songwriter music. So hey,
when I read about
I guess you're more basic than I thought, Dave.
Well, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, whereas the Rolling Stones, which we'll come on to. So, your hole in the ground from my choices were... I know what one of them is.
Well, I mean, of course, I have to say from the off that I wish I didn't know the Stranglers' debut album.
Yeah.
Because frankly, I wish it wasn't made. It's such a troubling, awful piece of work. I mean... As we discussed at length, there is some musically redeeming features, but even they are pretty slight, and there's so much that's just wrong with the album generally that, yeah.
And I need to apologise for that. And I tell you, the reason I pitched it is because you were pitching things like the Strokes and Gaslight and that sort of thing. I thought, well, what we need is some kind of, earlier kind of pub rock and roll. And to be honest, when I pitched it, I hadn't listened to it in 10 years. I just remember it being brilliant. And I absolutely accept we listened to it and found that it hadn't really stood the test of time in terms, well, even at the time, the lyrics were just horrible and troubling, and I will never go there again either. I am very sorry. What was your next one? Go on.
And yeah, I'm sorry to say it, and it seems odd that I've basically doubled down on my... I play in a rock band, and my first love is rock and roll, but I'll be honest, the 2 rock albums you shared, left me a bit cold. New Model Army, I mean... I didn't hate it. It says nothing to me that dozens of other bands haven't said before, and ultimately probably didn't say it quite as well as many of those. So sorry, that's one that will not be on my turntable anytime soon.
But this means nothing to me.
It doesn't seem like a monumental work of art that's going to add to my life, and it doesn't say anything to me that is of any real value. So sorry, Dave. New Model Army, not my thing.
Fair enough. Well, we'll just have to play the apple card on that. I thought it would be. I thought it'd be right up your street, kind of pretty good rock.
Maybe I'm not as basic as you think.
Exactly.
So, which albums did I share with you that you're glad you know now, but you're probably not going to be going back to?
Okay.
Should have known.
So, the very first episode, I was so pleased you pitched me Pixies Doolittle. I'd heard a lot about it. I'd never really played it. It's obviously up there as a godlike album as far as the critics are concerned. So I know it's jigsaw piece in musical history. But as we explored in the episode, I liked 2 or 3 tracks. The rest of it left me a bit like, I don't see what the fuss is.
6 or 7. You had a 7-track EP.
Yeah, there was a big EP, and then over. Well, with the fullness of time, it's come down to kind of Debaser and Hey. Really, on that album that I can sort of remember and go for. And Debaser, yes, I'm very glad I got Debaser in my life. But the rest of it, I could cheerfully never listen to again. Sorry. And then the other one, in the Glad I Know It, glad you pitched it, but I won't go back, is Daft Punk. Random Access Memories. Liked it, don't get me wrong. It's not hugely my thing. There's a 4-song bit in the middle, Instant Crush, Lose Yourself to Dance, Touch, Get Lucky, that I have gone back to and played as a kind of, I don't know, put the washing out EP. Quite like it. It's all right, but if you took it away from me and said you're never going to listen to me again, I wouldn't fight you. Well, I'd have a Marmite sandwich instead. So that's my 2. Yeah, thanks, but not forever. What's in your list for those?
Well, it's kind of fitting actually because it's two monumental, classic, iconic acts, both of which I've probably been avoiding my whole life for good reason, and probably because of associations I have and unfair stigma or preconceptions. But I mean, you know that I did not enjoy the Cure album at all. I found it really difficult and dense and depressing and just overbearing and claustrophobic. But I'm saying I should know it because I am aware of the esteem it's held in. It definitely has enriched my. I mean, it basically means that next time someone brings up the Cure at a party, I have something to say. That's about all I can say for it. So this one just kind of just about nudges into this section.
Okay.
On its less on its accolades, more on its kind of conversation worthy potential. And then slightly above that, Elton.
Hey!
I do think the Elton album was, it said a lot to me, and I think as it's discussed in the episode, the first side was fantastic. The second side was just everything I would have feared that Elton John was like.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's an artist I've not really gone near because of the preconceptions I probably have about our shared whatever family shared background we have. I mean, it seemed like the definition of mum rock, I guess. So I'm glad you've shown me some of the artistic potential and worth he has. But again, I think it's not an album I would be going back to.
Sure, that's fair enough. And that's all I wanted with the Elton was it's that listen without prejudice thing. There's a lot of prejudice about Elton, and I genuinely think his first 8 albums are worth exploring. So, if you like side 1, there's a lot of other good stuff around there from his first 8 albums. You should go back to them.
So, Dave, I've got an idea. There's 3 albums left that you actually want to keep, and there's 2 that I want to keep.
Yeah.
Shall we do a 5, a descending 5? So your top 1 goes last, and your bottom of the 3 goes first, and we'll fill it in like that. That would be quite fun.
The Rob and Dave joint.
There's 3 albums. Let me get this straight. There's 3 albums that I shared with you that you want to keep listening to, which is fantastic.
Yes.
Which of those albums is the least desert island to you?
The least desert island, but it was a surprisingly fun listen. Was the Rolling Stones a Bigger Bang? I
can't believe that even made your cut.
No,
yes,
of course
fantastic.
It did. And, partly probably because we had such a fun episode talking about it. But secondly, it was so much better than like most people my age, I had just dismissed 80s, 90s Stones as, middle of the road, awful stuff. It was so much better than I was expecting. Completely 2-dimensional, not even sure it's 2-dimensional, 1-dimensional, but so much fun. And as you know, I think it's a concept album, so I definitely want to go back and have gone back to a Bigger Bang.
I mean, looking back with, I think, less than half a year's hindsight, I'm frankly amazed and bemused. I thought that was even worth talking about. I think that we got very, I think I was going a bit clickbait. Like, everyone's going to be talking about Hackney Diamonds. We better...
Yeah.
But it is true. I mean, of all the albums that I've played in my life, I've played that album a lot, and it's given me a lot of joy.
Sure.
So yeah, I'm surprised it's Daft Punk is in category 2 and this is in category A, but whatever, bring it up.
I'm a middle-aged man. Middle-aged man puts Rolling Stones above electronic music. Shock. But anyway, go on. Number 4 or number 2 for you. Drum roll, please.
Supertramp, Crime of the Century.
Yeah.
Again, an album that completely defied all my expectations. Not that I really had any, but it's an album that I think of, and it's actually an album I can imagine like sitting down to and really like listening to through a great sound system. And I do want to explore them more, and I feel like this is a real bolt from the blue for me. Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
So I know which 2 albums are left, David, that I shared with you, but I don't know which one you like the most. So this really is the drum roll moment.
The drum roll is coming in at number 2. It's also in the middle category because it's such a lauded piece of work. The Strokes. Is this it?
Yay! I mean,
really
it
liked
obviously deserves to be number 1, but
no. I enjoyed it much more than I thought I would, and I think, as I said on the episode, because I had all this kind of, it's so popular, I won't like it, and I just, song by song, got sucked in by sort of track 5. I was just like, yeah, okay, I get it. I mean, I can't escape. I am a fan, and I will be listening to this for a long, long time to come.
So I do know that means what the number one spot is there, but I also know that means that the three records that made your keep were all very kind of conventional sounding guitar bands.
I know. Well, no, and also because I have been dining out slightly on the story of, doing this podcast with my younger brother, and I pitched him New Model Army, I pitched him The Cure, and do you know the band he's liked most so far? Supertramp. Who knew? There you go.
Exactly. We're learning something.
So that means number one that you would keep is
Tori Amos, Boys for Pele. An album which I found some of those melodies creeping around my head, some of those lyrical refrains. It's a modern classic. I'd probably go as far as to say, and I think that you basically not only completely overturned what I thought about her, which was someone singing about big dicks for a Greg's commercial, but introduced me to what is clearly a seismic singer-songwriter talent, and I'm looking forward to putting the homework in and getting to know, her back catalogue better.
Well, that's absolutely brilliant. So the two you've come out of really then are absolutely not guitar-based rock and roll. Supertramp and Tori, it's piano-based stuff.
And you therefore have picked your favourite album of the bunch, being the 59 Soundbite Gaslight album.
Oh, by a long way, actually. And I don't think it's just because it's the last one. I just think it's because it's the most fun. As we explored in the podcast, has some hidden depths as well. Probably the least sold in terms of sales.
Yeah.
Probably by a country mile, the least known band. But I think that's without reservation, just got it straight away, just loved it straight away, and I haven't got bored of it yet straight away. So I can see exactly why you've been listening to it for the last 16 years. Loved it. Brilliant.
That's so reassuring, and that almost reaffirms why we do this podcast, because obviously, even between that and the Strokes, of course, Is This It? Was so important, was so influential, was so hooky. It's just such a cool, amazing, seminal record. But it's obviously a record that you kind of felt you had to like, or try and like, or, if you didn't like it, what was going on with you? Gaslight are a band where I'm almost like, this is basic dumb rock and roll. I'm not going to tell people I like. But it spoke so much to me. And the fact that it spoke to you kind of almost reaffirms that I wasn't barking up a crazy tree. I just really like that band. And possibly, I don't know, maybe. I mean, actually, those are probably my two favorite guitar bands of this millennium, if I'm honest. I don't know. I'd have to go and look closer at my collection, but yeah.
There you go. And you struck 1 and 2.
And
fantastic.
But I've secretly played Gaslight more than Strokes.
No, exactly. And I know I will. Absolutely. Given the choice, I'll go, Gaslight, every time.
So, Dave, I've got a big question, seeing as you like 3 of the albums I pitched so much. Are there any of those albums that you would trade now, if you're on a desert island? You've got your 6 Desert Island discs you already picked. Would you trade any of them out for those 3 that you picked of mine?
So, interestingly, because we didn't do these as Desert Island discs, we did them as what do we think we should pitch to your brother. But 5 of my 6 are absolute Desert Island for me. And so you're not having those. I'm sorry. But the Stranglers I could cheerfully do without. And I would put Gaslight in it in a heartbeat. That would be a pretty good Desert Island list. Cure Disintegration, Supertramp, Crowd of the Century, Tori Amos, Boys for Pele, New Model Army, Impurity, Elton John, Man Across the Water, and who would you believe with those luminaries for me? Gaslight, Anthem, 59 Sound. That's a I need to add some prog in as well, which we'll come to in season 2. But I'm quite liking that on my desert island. Same question back at you. You don't have to say you would. But is there any you cut out and add one of mine?
I think the Tory and the Supertramp are both fantastic records that I really want to hear more of and really spend longer with. I feel like Daft Punk is a record that's spoken to me a lot of the time, but I kind of, I did pick it for reasons. It was coming up for a 10-year anniversary. I feel like it's a really interesting record sonically, lots to discuss. So I could probably trade that out for either or. And I mean, I probably wouldn't really, but I'm going to say now that come on, the Stones is just a silly little fun record, right? I've got to trade that out for either one of those two. So I actually, you get 2 Desert Island trades. So,
wow!
I mean, you made me one after all.
Look at me! Hey, it's not a competition.
So last question of all day.
It's not a competition, but you have one. Yeah, go on.
Which, if any of these, are still on your Hipster Dad Barbecue playlist?
Well, The Sun has just come out in England for the summer, so this is very present. All of the Gaslight Anthem album, one track off the Pixies, 2 or 3 tracks off Daft Punk, at least 3 or 4 off the Strokes, absolutely none off the Fiona, and the Rolling Stones. It depends on the barbecue, because it's so one-dimensional lyrically. I'd have to check to see who was there, but quite a lot.
Wonderful. And I can tell you that I'm frantically looking around record stores trying to find an OG copy of Crime of a Century. So
fantastic.
Because that'll sound fantastic on my new hi-fi.
It really will.
So I think that wraps up season 1 nicely. Mm-hmm. I don't want to promise too much because I like to, be a little bit fickle. But should we talk about what we're going to possibly be sharing in the next 10 episodes?
So, Rob, I tell you what, there's 2 things that there's lots I'm really enjoying about doing this podcast, but 2 major things is one is it's made me think about my music collection a lot more. And so some of these artists I've gone back to and haven't listened to in this depth for a long time, but I'm listening to artists going, oh, would this be good for Rob for the podcast or not? And that's been brilliant. And I'm really, really excited about hearing what artists you're going to throw in my direction, because you've done such a good job last season of pitching me stuff that I didn't know and have really liked and have really wanted to know. So the artists I'm thinking of throwing at you next season are, wait for it, and again, because you did say in the trailer of the last one, someone's got the short straw. Yeah, might be you again. Depeche Mode, Genesis, brackets early, Scott Walker, Richard Thompson,
yeah,
and Kate Bush.
Okay. Oh, I'm liking the leading into the kind of singer-songwriter solo voice thing. Okay, interesting. Well, I think maybe it's the nascent or rather retired music critic in me, but I've suddenly become painfully aware of anniversaries and how useful they are for remarketing things for record labels. With such a wealth of music in my life that I don't know what to share, I'm doubling down on the ones that have birthdays coming up because it seems to make a lot of sense.
Okay.
So the astute members of the audience may be able to work out which titles I'm talking about, but there's some big anniversaries for albums by Talking Heads and Suede coming up.
Okay.
So I'll be delving into them. And there's a couple of more contemporary releases that also happen to be hitting minor milestones. So now's as good a time as any. And I'm talking about Moses Sumney and Flying Lotus. And last of all, I might throw some Bon Jovi at you.
Oh, good God. That is brilliant. Okay, I'm loving that because the first 2 I've obviously heard of and not done enough depth. The middle 2, never heard of. And Bon Jovi are like your Elton John for me. I mean, I have so many preconceptions about Bon Jovi that make me want to run a country mile. So I very much look forward to that. Brilliant.
Fantastic. Well, I guess we'll be back this time on your favourite streaming service sometime soon with season 2.
See you later, guys. Bye.
Like, subscribe, follow.
Very good.
Do you think we got it?